like, I'm a fan of all these, like, quiz shows and everything, and this was very funny. They did their very good work. Chad Gable and Otis worked well together in a comedy segment. It was actually funnier that more of the comedy came from Alpha Academy than RK Bro, except for one line, which was, there was a metric unit question, and it was how many ounces are in a gram, or how many grams are in an ounce or something. And Riddle asked Randy. Randy goes, I got this, Riddle. And he goes, and Riddle looks at him and goes, Randy, how you know this? And Orton looks at him and goes, you ain't the only one who partakes, bro. And that made me laugh my ass off. I was laughing hysterically. Shout out to Randy Orton, man. I've said about Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton, they're living their best lives right now. They're enjoying these runs. These runs are truly fun for them, and they're really enjoying it. They really are enjoying these runs. So, I can't blame them. Randy Orton, RK Bro, wins the Quiz Bowl and now have a rematch for the Raw Tag Team Championships. They would exit the ring, and then the Street Profits would come out, and they would have a match with the Alpha Academy. It was very funny, and Alpha Academy would pick up the win. It's funny now. I keep saying it's funny. It's fucking hilarious. So, Chad Gable would pin the Street Profits for the win. This is the first time Chad Gable has won a match in, I believe, 20 months by pinfall after pinning Mojo Rawley was his last pin. So I think that's a very little interesting fact. I saw that on Facebook actually today as I was getting ready for a show. I'm like, oh, really? So the last time he had pinned somebody was Mojo Rawley. After this, we got a little segment from MVP and Bobby Lashley talking about the Elimination Chamber and how Bobby Lashley will win in the Elimination Chamber and will go on to WrestleMania to defend his title and will pin Brock Lesnar for the second time inside the chamber. It was a very good segment. MVP is one of the best on the mic in WWE right now. I was so happy when he came back at that Royal Rumble. You know, I always go back to his segment after he came back on that February edition of Raw, which was the MVP Lounge, where he first turned heel, but he began as a face. And I don't know if he's a face or a heel right now, but then he was a face and immediately turned heel, which was him saying, "It's good to be back. I shouldn't have left you." And I wonder if he had stayed, what he would have done in WWE. But he chose to go the independents after being released. I believe he could have signed another contract from what I've heard, but I don't know the full of what's going on. But it's great that he truly is back in WWE. I love MVP, man. He's probably one of my favorite performers right now. And him as the voice for Bobby Lashley really works. So these two, it's hard for them to have a bad segment. And speaking of bad segments, we got another Alexa Bliss therapy segment coming up. Alexa Bliss returned to therapy, and the therapist asked for the Lily replica doll back, and Alexa began to cry. I'm really not getting these segments. You know, I like Alexa Bliss as this fiend kind of character. I love her as this evil, demonic character, and she apparently had fun playing it, so I don't know why they would get rid of it, but if this is what the people want, this is what the people want, so I'm not one to deny. And then we got AJ Styles versus Damian Priest in I wouldn't call it a number one contenders match, but it would lead to a United States Championship match, so I'll go into that a little later. AJ Styles would pick up the win over a hard-fought match with Damian Priest. Very good match. I like the chemistry these two have, and apparently next week on Raw, it will be AJ Styles versus Damian Priest for the United States Championship. A title that AJ Styles is very familiar with. We then got a segment for Miztv with Miz and Maurice. It's nice to see Maurice also as an on-screen character back. I like that she's really back as an on-screen character. her and the Miz work well together. It's always been a very good chemistry with them. Whether it's a real life couple or as a on-screen couple, works perfectly. The Miz would basically voice his frustrations at Rey Mysterio for getting chosen for WWE Elimination Chamber qualifying matches over him, being chosen as the WWE 2K22 cover athlete over him. I don't know if this is going to lead to a WrestleMania match, maybe an Elimination Chamber match, or if they do a Fastlane pay-per-view or a March pay-per-view, that kind of match. I don't know if it's going to lead to a WrestleMania moment for Miz, but if they do have a WrestleMania match, I think it would be a good match between the Miz and Mysterio. After which Dominic stood up and said, "Hey, you gotta stop talking to my pops like that, man, otherwise it's going to be, going to lead to some problems." And Miz then said, "Hey, you're way taller than Ray, you're this and that. Are you sure you're not Eddie's kid?" Which got the whole crowd chanting for Eddie Guerrero, man. Man, rest in peace, Sam. Taking juice in. We then got a match between Dominic Mysterio and The Miz, which actually had a lot of shenanigans. Maurice was thrown out from ringside, and Rey Mysterio would get his revenge from last week after The Miz faked having him trip him to get Mysterio ejected. Mysterio would trip The Miz this time and would lead to Dominic picking up the win over The Miz. 1, 2, 3. So nice little match, nice little segment. It was definitely one of the highlights of Raw. After this, we got Bianca Belair versus Nikki Ash in a match. These two will be part of the Women's Elimination Chamber, which 5 participants have been announced. It is Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Nikki Ash, Doudrop, Liv Morgan. And the 5th participant has been announced. We're talking it's Bayley or Alexa Bliss. Whoever wins will go on to face Becky Lynch at WrestleMania if Becky Lynch retains over Leda, which we all know is, yeah. Bianca Belair would pick up the win after a nice little hard-fought match between her and Nikki Ash. After this, we got Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory in a hard-fought hoss fight. This was just 2 guys going at it. Kevin Owens trying to prove that he belongs in the Men's Elimination Chamber match after Austin Theory beat him in the qualifier. It was very sad to see that Kevin Owens will not be a part of this Elimination Chamber, but it will be fun to see if he can find a way in. Kevin Owens would pick up the win and would destroy Austin Theory on the outside, so maybe Austin Theory can't compete. I don't know. After this, we got a segment between Becky Lynch and Leda where they came face to face. Becky Lynch says there wouldn't be a Becky Lynch without Leda, but now there is a Becky Lynch, there can't be a Leda. This was a great line by Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is just one of the best on the mic, and she says she had to give up a lot to be champion. She had to give up friends, done. She had to give up a lot of time in her life, done. She had to give up the fans, done. And now Leda, done. So I really did like this segment. I love Becky Lynch as a heel. I know people aren't for it and they think that she's a way better face, but I love her as a heel, man. I really do. This would lead to a little fight between them. Leda would get the upper hand, hang a twist of fate, and then hit a Leda salt off the top rope. And they said if that was the case at Elimination Chamber, Leda would be your new Raw Women's Championship. And then your semi-main event, we got Doudrop versus Liv Morgan, talking about the Elimination Chamber match, and then having a match. Doudrop would pick up the win over Liv Morgan. It was an okay match. Doudrop showing her talents, Liv Morgan showing their talents. I like that they were given time for this, but there was still a lot left to be desired from this match. And then after this, we get your main event of Riddle versus Seth Rollins. Riddle would win after a DQ by Kevin Owens. He would attack Riddle. Orton would come in to make the save and would take out Owens with an RKO. And apparently during the commercial, this would turn into a tag team match. Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens would pick up the win in I wouldn't call it was a 10-minute match. Kevin Owens would take out Orton on the outside. Seth Rollins would hit a stomp on Riddle, pick up the win, and then Randy Orton would come in and hit an RKO on Owens. Seth Rollins would walk up the ramp laughing. I don't know what the situation between Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens is. Maybe we're getting a Kevin Owens-Seth Rollins feud one more time at Mania that they felt we should have gotten at WrestleMania 36. But maybe they're finally giving it to the crowd now for this. I could see it happening at WrestleMania, and I would like to see that match. And Raw went off the air after that. It was a good Raw. I enjoyed Raw this week. I found it fun. I found it entertaining. B+. B+ Raw this week. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a classic pay-per-view review. We're in Elimination Chamber month. We're on the road to WrestleMania. And it's time to take a twisted turn into the Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber 2017. This is when I started watching wrestling. This is when I started watching WWE, because I didn't grow up a WWE fan. I really didn't. But my friend got me into it. He said, hey, you should try watching this. I think you would like it, because at the time I was trying to write for TV shows. And he says you would like the storylines, you would like the characters. Don't view it as a sports show. View it as a show. And that's what I view it as. I view it as a men's soap opera. It is a men's version of Broadway. It's choreographed. It needs to be perfect. The only thing it's missing is a song every now and then. Somebody busts out and just go, Oklahoma! If someone does, that'd be hilarious. But I can actually see Vince McMahon doing that. God damn it, I just gave Vince McMahon an idea, didn't I? Fuck, I'm sorry whoever gets that gimmick. But, this is when I would really start watching it. I would really enjoy, because my first pay-per-view would be WrestleMania 33, and this was the pay-per-view before WrestleMania 33. It would be this and Fastlane, and so I really actually knew the storylines going into WrestleMania. I would rewatch it. The first live pay-per-view I ever watched was WrestleMania 33, but the first pay-per-view I ever watched was Elimination Chamber on the WWE Network, which you could get for $9.99 in other countries besides the United States. So anyway, this would take place from Phoenix, Arizona, in the Talking Stick Arena with an attendance of 11,000 people. Mauro Nell would be on commentary, and man, I miss him. If I could bring an announcer back to WWE, it would be Mauro Nell. I loved him as an announcer. He had the vocal range, he had the emotion, and they would also put a camera on him. If they kept the camera on him, I guarantee you more people would watch that camera than watch the action in the ring, because he was always just had the perfect facial reactions of just him. I mean, go YouTube it, man. I think it was the Tommaso Ciampa Johnny Gargano match in New Orleans, of them when Gargano kicks out of the fairy tale ending twice. You just see Mauro Ranello's brain break, and he has the best facial reaction of all time. So go watch that on YouTube if you can. Anyway, let's get into this pay-per-view. This pay-per-view would be, again, one of the last ones before WrestleMania. You would have Fastlane after this, and then you would have WrestleMania 33. Well, technically NXT TakeOver, but again, that's a network event. By the way, they call them premium live events now. So, it would kick off with a singles match on the pre-show of Mojo Rawley defeating Kurt Hawkins and basically really helping cement Kurt Hawkins' WWE losing streak. The main show would kick off with Becky Lynch versus Mickie James. By the way, on the Wikipedia page, I don't know if it's true, on the Wikipedia page they say this was WWE's first pay-per-view to feature 3 women's matches on the main card. So, a little bit of women's history there. Becky Lynch would defeat Mickie James in an 11-minute match. This could have been a way better match if it wasn't for the ending. If Becky Lynch was able to really hit like the Beck Exploder or make her tap with the disarmer, but it was a roll-up, and I don't like roll-ups as an ending. You know, a lot of people claim for Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat, but it's a great match, don't get me wrong. It's a true WrestleMania classic, but I still don't like a roll-up ending. I really don't. So, Becky Lynch would pick up the win over Mickie James in a nice 11-minute match.